You need a shot timer because that which gets measured gets worked on. The Range Tech Timer is the official timer of Active Self-Protection because it is versatile, reliable, feature-rich, and very economical. Check out all it can do at the link below.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Suck Less Saturday. I am your host, Neil, and I've got kind of a cool one for you this week, and I'm really excited about this. I just got done, and John took a class with John. Everybody meet John Johnston from Citizens Defense Research, man, I can't even get that out, and Ballistic Radio. So if you like podcasts and like gun podcasts, this guy's got a good one, and he's got the great guest. So I am really excited to have you today. So thanks, man. Appreciate you coming on.
No, of course, Neil. I mean, you asked me, and I'm like, me? Okay.
Yeah, no, I get that. You are one of the more humble guys I know. I really appreciate that, and I look up to you a lot in the whole gun world.
Didn't used to be that way, but thank you very much. I've worked at it. So.
Cool.
But,
well, folks, I'll tell you this. John teaches some great classes. He goes around and does. Give us the names of your classes.
So CDR, Citizens Defense Research, we've got a bunch of different curriculums, but so there's technical handgun tests and standards, which I'm the primary instructor on. We've got the TAPG, so the Armed Parent / Guardian, which is a contextual class about essentially if you get into a violent encounter with your children present. Melody Lowry and I both are the primary instructors on that.
That's a good one too.
Yeah. Melody teaches fundamental applied pistol skills. We've got a new addition to the team, Chris Seipert, who is honestly an amazing dude. He's going to be running public encounters with us. So that's going to be a 2.5-day class that the three of us sort of offer our perspective on everything on. And then he's got a 1-day classroom class that is essentially about mental preparation for violent encounters and the stuff that you do that actually pays dividends in those sorts of situations. And we've got some other stuff that's coming out soon, but I think that's what we have on the books right now.
So I've trained with you twice. A couple years ago, I took your 1-day test and standards, and then this weekend. And what I really liked about the class is it gave me an opportunity to test all the work that I've been doing, and I definitely suck less than I did 2 years ago.
Definitely, I can because we performance track. Yeah, I can say that there was certainly a lot of validation of all of the hard work that you've been doing.
Yeah, so. and still miles to go. But I mean, this weekend, I remembered how much fun I have shooting. And, it kind of got to the point where I'm like, man, this is kind of turning into, I've got to suck less. And I was really putting a lot of pressure on myself. And I won't share with them what you said, but so John does a significant amount of one-on-one stuff. Yeah. And which some people like, some people don't like, because there's a little downtime. But frankly, I had a whole lot of time to internalize my one-on-one. And so I had one of my buddies videotaping that little portion. Yeah. Of course, he just took still photos, so there was no video anyway. But anyway, at one point, John leans in and said something in my ear because we're friends. Yeah. And he knows a little bit about me personally, and took me, almost mentally to a place that all of a sudden I felt myself grinning the entire rest of the weekend. I'm like, this is fun. This is the most fun thing or one of the most fun things that I do. Yeah. And my shooting went from here to here in about 10 minutes, just when I'm like, let's have fun. So, yeah.
I mean, so for me, it's really hard to kind of put my finger on it, but essentially people are not very kind to themselves, especially when they're learning new things. There needs to be room for, you know what? I'm learning this thing. I have an expectation as far as where I would like my performance to get to. But if it's not quite there yet, that's data. And, you can do something with it, but it's not anything to have a negative emotion about yourself over.
Yeah. So it's a little different this week. And John and I have just talked at a very high level about what he wants to share here. But typically we talk about guns and dry fire and hitting the range or, training to do some other stuff. And typically it's some physical training. Yeah. You've got something else you want to talk about a little bit.
Right. So, and I need to not do the little things that I do when I'm on camera and uncomfortable, but so you're like, hey, do you want to do one of these videos? What's one thing that we should suck less at?
Yeah.
And the thing that I have been working on personally quite a bit is, especially with the way this year has gone, it's not been an easy year for pretty much anybody. And the thing that I'll say, and this is sort of inside of my coursework too, but we find out the most about ourselves when we're challenged. We find out the most about ourselves when things don't go well. And any opportunity for greatness, like ourselves, comes from struggle and honestly painful moments, right? And my challenge for myself has been, instead of taking things that happen, looking at them and going, man, that thing that happened, like that struggle that I'm going through, that it's just awful and it's what's making my life bad. Instead of thinking of it that way, trying to think about it as an opportunity to, exhibit grace and, dignity in the face of adversity and all sorts of things. So there's some very good friends of ours that had a much worse year than I had, just setback after setback. And there's some of the nicest, most amazing human beings that I know. And, they were in pain and they were struggling, but, they were still being kind to other people and still, just their attitude was incredible, right? And it occurred to me that, I know a lot of people that do things like climb mountains or things like that. And I talked to them and I was thinking about like my own life experience. And there's a lot of people that, they climb a mountain and they're into doing something like that. And when they get to the top and they see, and they look out, they enjoy that part. I mean, that part's nice. Sure. It's nice for you, whatever. But the part that they really like is the climbing of the mountain. They are enjoying the struggle. And if you can, I guess, not create this sort of false narrative where like, it's fine that this is happening and I'm not experiencing any negative emotion, but just understand that, for me, the struggle is actually the part that is what allows me to grow. And the struggle is the part that allows me to improve or change or succeed in something that maybe I haven't succeeded at before, even if it's just, internally or emotionally. And if we want, because I know most of the people that are watching this are, gun people or gun centric.
Sure.
The way that you can apply that sort of mindset to what we're doing is if you go out and you shoot something that you're really good at over and over and over again, and you're super good at it, you're stagnant, you're not growing. Growth comes from failure and it comes from challenge. It doesn't come from success. I've never met anybody that grew because, I did this thing really good and it was easy.
Yeah.
That's not, in my experience, how life or any of this works. And without getting like too personal, and I'm not comparing to anyone else's, but like personally, emotionally, this was a difficult year. And I'm a better human being for it. Now, I didn't particularly enjoy what was happening when it was going on. Some of it I would prefer it had not happened, but I'm still grateful for the opportunity to get something out of that and, go through it and be a better human being on the other side of it. So I guess the thing that we need to suck less at is perspective. And maintaining that perspective as far as bad things are inevitable. Like they will happen. We can't do anything about that, but we can do something about the way that we handle it, process it, and come out the other side of it. So,
I think that this isn't just a gun thing, but for those of us that shoot a lot or are trying to suck less at specifically shooting, that really correlates. But this isn't just gun stuff. This is the whole gamut of what you want to do, right?
Yeah, well, and we've sort of talked about this. A lot of people come specifically to tests and standards, and the thing that they're expecting is not necessarily
Right.
the thing that they get. And the thing that I have discovered is that for the most part, shooting, somebody can figure out the basic pieces of that in about 6 months and then spend the next 20 years trying to master it. And, the next 20 years, most of what's going on there, aside from, myelinating the axons
Right.
and all of that, is simply just figuring out what's going on in your own head.
Yeah.
And, so when I was talking with you before you were getting ready to do the thing, and what I try and do with all of my students, I'm not always successful. I'd like to have a 100% success rate in being able to do this, but being able to figure out, hey, what does this person need to hear right now that's going to be the most useful to them and where they're at. So, and the primary difference between like tests and standards and most of the other classes that I've seen is the focus is on the group. The curriculum is about the group and the individual just happens to sort of support the group. Whereas for me, in that specific class, the focus is on the individual and the group supports that.
Yeah.
That's how it's structured.
Yeah, and one thing that I really like about that, and there's a lot, but one of the things that I think should be pointed out to folks is, as you're going down the line coaching people, the rest of us are all welcome to kind of watch and listen.
Well, they're encouraged.
Encouraged. And now it was unseasonably cold. I don't know if it was unseasonably, it was cold.
It was.
So at one point I went and sat in the car and warmed up.
And that's fine.
But we had some time, right? But we were able to sit and listen to 3 or 4 different shooters. And, it was interesting the way this line was set up. There was a pretty good shooter at the very beginning. So we all got to sit and listen to you talk to a pretty good shooter. And then there was a fairly new shooter, and we got to hear that. Yeah. And another pretty good shooter, and then another super good shooter,
Yeah.
and the class was a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
And what I really enjoyed watching was you kind of meet everybody where they were. You know what I mean? My technical stuff with we didn't talk about my grip at all. We didn't talk about any of that kind of stuff, and one of the things that you said that really stuck with me was the end. And you're like, hey, you just need to work on yourself and believe that you can do this. Because if you believe that you can do this, then you can go do it. Because, the skill and all of that is there. It's more mental at this point.
Well, and the thing about that too is that like oftentimes, what people really want is, hey, if I go buy this thing, is this going to fix all the problems that I have?
Yep.
Or like, hey, if I go shoot this drill 10 times, is 10 times enough to fix all these problems that I have? Right. And one, maybe, I don't know.
Right.
But for most people, everyone is different. I have a curriculum, like it's structured. I have stuff that I'm going to cover, but it's going to be different for everyone. Well, at least it should be different for everyone.
Well, I think, the experience is going to be different for everybody because the one-on-one stuff is just enough different. And, I, of course, John Correa is my best friend.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking to him, I'm sitting there listening because John and I go to a class and we compete every time between the two of us. And if anybody in the class is having more fun than we are, then we're messing something up. We're maybe even disruptive at some point. So I'm sorry. But it's when you're having fun and doing things and you get to compete with somebody else, that's fun. But also listening to you talk to one of the people that I think is a pretty high-end shooter in John Correa, and listening to, this guy can, look at somebody up and down and go, oh, hey, here's, maybe it's that small, maybe it's that big. And you found some of that for everybody. So,
well, yeah.
But the vast majority of it, at least for me, was more mental. There was some structural stuff and all that kind of stuff. So,
well, it's again, it's figuring out and it's my opinion. So like, I'm not professing to have any answers.
Right.
I have pretty good guesses sometimes, but again, like I'm fallible just like anyone else. And, but for me, the thing is, what's going to be the thing that is going to give you the maximum benefit with the least amount of effort.
Right.
And I happen to give you this thing that is actually quite a bit of effort.
Yeah.
That's going to be where your biggest gain is.
Yeah. And I appreciate it was such a great reminder. And it was like, where did that go? And when I brought it back, it just went, And my moment of bragging is there's you have the test with no name. The test with no name. So that's its actual name, but it's the test with no name. And I ran this 2 years ago in front of a whole bunch of people I didn't know, but really looked up to because I was still pretty new at all of this. Had a couple of malfunctions in the middle of it to clear and all that kind of stuff. I think it was like a 26 or something like that.
Well, I let you do it over again because for that one, that's the only one where if you get a malfunction, it's like, no, we'll give you a mulligan on that.
Right.
One. But I remember it not going well for you.
Right. But I shot it clean.
Yeah.
And I remember you said, holy smokes, with that much
going on,
all of that to shoot it clean was pretty impressive. And of course, at that moment, I'm like, holy cow, Johnston noticed that I stuck with it. And this year, when we shot the Dot Assessment Madness, which is another fun one, only cost $33 to run the drill.
Yeah.
But it's really, so you don't want to run it very often, but I shot it in probably half the time I did last time. And in your first guy, I was like, holy cow, all that work with the man has paid off, and the work is paying off. So, so it was fun. I really enjoyed the class. So
I just have to be clear. When I designed that assessment, it only costs like $3 for it. So
yeah, in today's currency, it's a whole lot more. So it's 60 rounds. I think it's a fun 60 rounds to shoot.
Well,
it's very,
if you do it well, you only shoot 55.
That's true. That's true. It's only 55. That's right. I'm sorry. Well,
all right.
I think I only shot like 52.
Yeah.
That's one because there's math and counting, and everybody knows that's not my game. But so John, for this week's assignment, what would you tell people to do?
I would challenge you to go back throughout your life, okay? And if you're in the space to do this, and maybe you're not right now, but like if you're not, put a pin in it. When you're in a better space, you can do this. Go back in your life and examine some of the moments that at the time were bad, all right? And I would challenge you to find something good that came out of that, either good about you and your personality, or maybe, I lost my job and it was really miserable, but now I've got this awesome job, or whatever, and, frankly, it might be hard. And a lot of it might depend on who you are as a person, but I strongly believe this, that almost everyone I've met is, truly unique and amazing individuals. And they are the sum collection of their greatest highs and their lowest lows. And, if you, everyone's going to be like, this guy's weird. But the thing that I'm trying to say is that, go back, examine those moments, try and find one thing. It could be a little thing, positive that came out of that. And start to recognize, the struggle is just growth. It might be painful. It will be painful. It might be uncomfortable. There might be moments that are awful. I mean, just flat out are.
Sure.
Right. And I think even in shooting, people have had those moments where like, this is just not going the way that I want it to go.
Yep.
But that's what we grow from. We grow from failure. We grow from struggle. And the thing that we need to do is be okay with that and recognize it as an opportunity, and in some cases a gift. And it doesn't make those moments hurt less necessarily, but it can also be, and again, maybe I'm weird. Maybe I've read too many of the Stoics, right?
Yeah.
But it is the thing that the parts of me that I like and enjoy the most have all come from the worst experiences of my life. And that's just something that,
you're not wrong. And as I'm sitting here and we're talking about this and having the weekend, in my reflection of things, some of the biggest steps up came after a pretty big fall down. And so, okay, so we're going to leave everybody with this. The biggest thing that I got this weekend, and I'm totally stealing it, and I'm stealing your words,
sure,
but I'm giving you credit right here, and I'll try to give you credit every time I say this.
All right.
But when you're on the gun range, there's a lot of really negative self-talk.
Yeah.
We all beat ourselves up, and I do it all. I'm like, I'll shoot, and I always, and Steph and I talk about this all the time. I'm like, why are we wasting time on that? One, and second, why are we talking bad about ourselves? But John said something that stuck with me to where I actually, went and I texted it to Steph. But John said, if I talk to you the way you talk to you, how would you feel? I think is
because I say it the same way each time. If I talk to you the way that you're talking to yourself right now, would you be okay with that?
Yes.
And most people, like, they get this moment of like, I'm like, no, seriously. If I were saying the things to you that you're saying to yourself right now, how many people here would punch me in the face or would just get their stuff and leave?
Right.
And if you're being honest about it, almost everyone would. Because it wouldn't be okay.
Yep.
And it's like, if it's not okay for me to talk to you that way, why is it okay for you to talk to you that way?
That was the biggest takeaway from the whole thing. So, so everybody, well, first off, thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thanks. I mean, I'm so glad we've got to know each other over the years. This has been a lot of fun. So appreciate you coming. Folks, this week, look inside a little bit. It's coming. We're at the Christmas season. Maybe it's time for your heart to grow a few sizes, right? That happens for some people. Now, sometimes it hurts when it grows. So think through that. But I want to thank John. Go check him out. Check out Blisky Radio. That's a really fun one. He's got great guests. Hang out there and spend a little time in some reflection and grow a little. So suck less by thinking about yourself. See you next week. Thanks.